tuned into On Air with your host, Clavette.
What is up, punks? We are back with On Air, and we've got a treat because we've got Terrible Twosome. Is that what we're calling you? We've got Veggi and Sunflwr on today. What is up, gentlemen? How are we doing?
Yo. Great
What's
to be
going
here.
on, man? It's good to see you.
Good to see you guys. I'm excited to talk to you. You guys are our first double guest, so this will be fun. I know we're not in person, so it'll be kind of an interesting cadence of who talks when. But I'll try and pose questions to you guys so it's a little easier. But I think what's really cool about what we've got going on is, we did that show last summer, Trevor, and that's when I met you, Lucas, and I just had this sort of idea cooking from there. I kind of have just a starting out question, like, Trevor, like maybe walk me through a little bit, like how you guys met and sort of how this relationship began.
Yeah, well, if I can remember correctly, I think I found Sunflwr through Spotify. I was just listening to some of his music and then just did the old, reaching out on Instagram DMs, being like, "Hey, let's work on something," and then ended up, getting in the studio one day. This was in 2023, Lucas, I think. Yeah, so that sounds about right. And then we were mid-session, and then we were just talking about where we're from, where we live right now, and it turns out we ended up living 3 blocks away from each other at the time, so we just didn't even know it. And so from there, we're just cool, let's hang out outside the studio, and just and then we just kind of became buddies ever since. So
I love that. And Lucas, tell me, that first session, what was your first impression? Because I used to be an artist, right? And there would be these times where you just jump in to working with someone and you don't even really know them quite yet. So I guess tell me, did you guys make something that has eventually come out, or what sort of was your first impressions of that session?
Yeah, well, I think Trevor's manager had reached out to mine and asked if I wanted to do a session or something. And then I got there, but I knew his music because there's a song called Pixar that me and my buddy have loved for a long time. So I knew that, but then I also when I looked into him, he was really big on TikTok, and I'm just a little old for TikTok or something. So I didn't have any preconceived notions, but I was I don't know what these kind of guys are like, or so. But he wasn't like that at all. So or not at all what I was maybe hoping he wasn't. So he was super down to earth and just a good boy. So no, that first session, I don't remember if we I think we just jammed. We made I was very much still doing the lofi-house thing. Not that I have departed too far from that, but I think I forced him to make a lo-fi-house track. And then we made this little one called Kick It, which is just actually a nice tune. I think we put it in I think we played it in we did a little recorded set. I think that's the most fame that we'll get. But it was just an introductory, make some jams, and then crazy enough, I think a month later, I got booked for a show in Dallas, and then he was on the lineup as well. So I texted him and I was like, "Hey, look, we're gonna play a show together," and that's the last show we played together. That was in early 2024.
Yeah,
and we got to shout out Jake Gatewood real quick because that show was with the Take a Break guys down in Dallas. So, Jake, if you're watching, what up? So it seems like a little bit of kind of coincidence, but also some interesting kind of stuff. I mean, do you guys kind of see, I'll ask you this, Trevor, do you guys see a lot of similarity in your sound? Is that sort of what was kind of drawing you to the Sunflwr sound a little bit? Or
I know. I think too, it is funny that we were making more lo-fi house stuff. But I feel it kind of coincided with some of the earlier Veggi stuff because, I've been kind of up in the BPM recently with a lot of my releases. And it's been nice to kind of keep things sub 130, like 128, like at the time. And because that's what we were kind of doing a lot of, like you and me, Lucas. So it was, I think there was a lot that we were able to just learn from each other and, kind of stretch our brains in a way to make some sunflower veggie bangers. So
are you guys pro speeding up right now, or are you guys trying to fight against how fast everything is getting? Trevor or Lucas, what do you say there?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me it was hard because when I started touring, I had a really hard time. It took me like probably 10 or 15 shows to like start to find like a good balance and a way of playing. I mean, like I don't play like necessarily like any mainstream tunes, but I definitely play I play things in my set that are definitely pretty fast. I'd say like in the low 130s and stuff. And I have like sections like that, and I have my entire time I've been touring. But a lot of that just comes from some of the artists that I really love, and it's not exactly what I'm making, but people that I connect with and music that I connect with that more like phenomenologically feels similar regardless of its genre, right? Like something more emotional and nostalgic, which are just like overused buzzwords, I think, in dance music, but it's still, there's just like a little bit more musicality to some things. So it doesn't matter if it's like a breakbeat thing or a garage thing or a house thing or a down tempo electronica thing. I think there's like a feeling there. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, no, I toured with a lot of people, and I think like some people were very much, especially in like the lo-fi house world, like some people were very much moving on very hard from it, right? And like I I'd say I'm like probably I'm making my next move away from it stylistically in a way, but like not to an extent of like a genre switch. I'd say it's just like a little more clarity, but still still some of that feeling from just like the distorted sounding pads, like the tube amp sounding vintage synths and stuff like that. Like that stuff will always stick with me because it's just like the most fun sounds to like make and hear and stuff. So like I'm not leaving that zone, but yeah, like the like collagey weird vocals from voice memos, maybe like there's a little vocals with more clarity now these days, but yeah, but a lot, I've seen a lot of people just totally jump into like from lo-fi house to melodic techno or trance or whatever you want to call it based off your age, I guess.
yeah.
I mean,
Genres don't exist anymore. Yeah.
yeah, and like Trevor, I know you've sort of been sort of you were kind of mentioning the slower pace, like the bounce kind of guy. Are you kind of feeling that draw to quicker tempos? Like, I think maybe the through line for both of you guys is melody. That's kind of what I gather. But
Yeah.
is like, are you kind of meeting at 130 right now? Is that kind of what's bringing these great minds together?
Yeah, recently, and to answer your previous question, I feel like I am pro higher tempo these days. Like, if you were talking to 2021 me, I'd be like, I'm not playing anything above 120 BPM. I'm staying at like 115 to 120. And like, even though it was really fun to make, it was like kind of hard to DJ in a way. Cause like the crowd was jumping, but I personally, once I started getting into the higher 120s, lower 130 BPM stuff, then I could really feel a groove. I could really feel even just myself jumping around on stage. And I'm like, oh, this is like way more fun, to be honest, to perform. And that kind of influenced me and my future releases, like, because take, for example, Off and On, like I released that in 2023. That's at like 130 BPM, and that one's always a fun one to play, and it nestles right in the middle of my sets now because it'll start at like, sometimes I'll start at 128, but most of the time I'm starting at 130 and just kind of hovering between there and like 134. If I'm playing like a Silva Bumpa track, then I'm going to have to bump it up a little more, go up to the high 130s, 140s. But for the most part, I have been kicking it up a notch with the BPMs just because it's fun. It's fun to DJ that at that speed.
Yeah,
I have,
no, I
I
feel
have a question. Like, how do you guys feel about the like the context though that goes with like tempo? Because I don't know if this is like a disorder, but I have like total tempo dysmorphia or whatever it is. Like, so depending on like my mind state, like 120 can sound fast or slow or whatever. It does like it just totally depends on the day.
Yeah,
Where I am, like if I'm in the club and like I have adrenaline, yeah, like 120 sounds slow, but like sometimes here or like if I'm on a walk, it can sound like really different. So for me, it's like all context. Like
yeah.
don't I don't know if like the energy actually changes for me other than like what it's compared to. But I don't know how people feel about that. But um,
I definitely feel that because I think when I'm first hearing like a record, I'm feeling kind of the vibe and the energy first, and then it's like once I get into record box, do I like see that unfortunate truth that like maybe this like a Atura record isn't going to play so nicely against like I don't know like a Dave Lee or some like a Glitterbox kind of thing, right? So I guess I do feel that like it is so contextual, and then it's only once you really kind of see the tempo staring at you do I actually realize like, oh shit, this is really fucking fast. Like, how am I going to do this? But then it is really interesting. Like, have you guys ever tried playing some of those really quick records slower or like vice versa? Like, I've seen a lot of these UKG guys where they'll speed up, I don't know, like Calvin Harris, right? Like with MPH, like
Yeah,
I'm sure that whole edit came from him like, all right, I want to play some fast like Calvin stuff. So I mean that's just how I feel. Like it's like it should sound good at any tempo.
there has been some discourse with like that one Silva Bumpa track, how there's what Josh Baker plays it like a lot slower than it's supposed to be. And so there's all these memes saying like Josh Baker plays Silva Bumpa at 10 BPM. And so it's just so fucking crazy. But I don't know. Sometimes I've tried to play faster songs slower, and I try not to deviate too far from what it originally sounds like, or else it's, the artifacts and Pioneer DJ software is just going to start messing it up. And I don't know. I want to be a purist when it comes to the BPMs of each song.
I think we talked about this, Trevor. Do you take not master well like what is it, the master pitch off on this
Oh,
CDJ? Like, would you rather
uh,
hear it based on the tempo it's at, or do you want
honestly,
it locked to that
I
same
never
tempo?
touch master pitch. I'll just leave that on, set it, and forget it.
Okay.
Because I know, yeah, you can turn it off and then it'll, just warp just fine. I guess I haven't really messed with trying to get, because then I become, a really like big melody guy and making sure everything's within the same key. Then that'll kind of like, I think that's why I end up just never touching that button.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking of DJing, we talked before this obviously, but this show we have coming up on the 19th is your first time playing back to back. Tell me how you're feeling about that. Is there any prep going into it? What are the vibes?
it's not the first time we played Trevor's girlfriend's birthday party.
Yeah, that's true.
I stand
That's some lore
corrected.
right there. Yeah.
No,
Well, tell me,
no.
like, what goes like when you guys play back to back with somebody? Is it more like off the cuff? Do you guys like to be a little bit prepared? Is there any sort of conversation? Like what?
We've been in conversation about, trying to set up a day to just kind of run through our set or try to get a vibe going. So whether that's at my place or at Lucas's place or at a pirate studio to really get the vibes going, we'll figure that out. But I know that because like I don't know if you've seen that episode of Eat Your Veggies Radio where it was me and Sunflower playing. Like that was pretty good. That's a pretty good example of how I feel like the energy will be. And like judging off of that, we did have a really good just energy going back and forth. And like, we also use kind of a bit of the same like effects and stuff and like our methods to our madness with transitions are pretty similar. So I feel like no matter what, whatever. If you're going from disco to a hard groove track, then it's gonna be banging.
I love it.
Yeah.
What about you,
Yeah,
Lucas?
we got to do some level of prep.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've never done like an official back to back on a show. But I've done like many back to backs at shows where I have done my set, gone off, I'm still at the club, and then come back later for some back to back. I've done that a lot of times, and that's just fun, man. You just do whatever you want. But I haven't played in LA for like a while, so there's like songs that I need to play or want to play. So for I guess like Trevor and I think it's important that we like at least have a plan going in for the beginning, right? Where it's like it's that point in the night where we want to like, okay, like a sunflower track's playing, okay, a veggie track's playing, and those things need to happen to kind of like establish the foundation, I think, a little bit. And I think, I don't know, Trevor, how you feel exactly, but it's like I think as it goes along, it will become a little less planned. So and more into and more just off the feel.
I second that notion.
But yeah,
Everything according
see how
to
it goes.
plan
I think
is
there's an element of surprise here, which is really fun. Yeah.
No, I think that I've always, because I've never, I guess, really been sort of the main draw on a show, and so I always kind of think about from all these different levels of like going to Ultra, like back when I was in college, and you would see these like probably, and even to today, where it's like these completely pre-planned sets. I always kind of think about like where do people kind of like to have their plan for the night? Like, is it sort of like loosely like, okay, at the peak, this is where I need to be playing this, and like maybe we try and find a couple songs between the two of us that like blend really well, and we kind of wait for that moment. Is that sort of kind of how you guys approach it? It's just like, all right, here's our guide, but we're gonna probably draw outside the lines at some point.
I'll let you speak, Lucas.
Okay. Yeah, I was good. I don't want to talk. I had more coffee than I normally do, so I don't. But,
Let it out.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, the last, like, for example, the last tour I did a month ago in Europe, like, I had kind of the variety of like an hour and a half to 3 hour sets, and so I like these days, I like when I'm planning for myself, I usually have like this starting point. And then I'll have like kind of an anchor slowdown point, and that's specific to Sunflower catalog because like there are some slow tunes that I like to play where there's this kind of like break and then sort of pick it back up again. So I usually work around like 2 planned sections that are like kind of like a 3 to 5 track thing. And then the rest of the time it's just DJing. And it used to be way more planned. Now it's way less, which is good. That means I'm getting better at reading the crowd or whatever it is. I don't know. So,
Would you say that's similar, Trevor?
I was going to say, I feel like that's very similar to how I plan sets. There's usually, I'll have, and I most of the time I'm planning sets by the key and not by BPM, because BPMs are going to range from 130 to 135, and that's totally doable. But towards what I usually will do is I'll play like more newer stuff towards the beginning, and then I'll play more of my back catalog and like my most popular song at the very end. And I do have a couple of anchor songs where I start to slow the BPM down, because the last song I always play is Exceptional, and Exceptional originally is at 115 BPM. Now I've made a clubbier version of it that kind of hovers around 124, 128. So I'm using a couple songs as buffer and just slowly, bringing that tempo down each song so that I can, get Exceptional at its comfortable max and then just groove it out until the very end. So,
Nice.
But the rest of it is just crowd reading, and I feel like my record box playlist is sometimes it's just like 100 to 150 songs where I know like, okay, the top is like kind of organized, bottom's kind of organized, and the rest is just fuck all. So
I love that. Well, you boys both mentioned crowd reading, and this is also something I think about a lot as a DJ, like sort of the cues everybody uses. And I guess I bring this up just because I saw a clip of Dave One and A-Track talking about sort of like all these crazy, maybe not crazy. I mean, maybe it's actually really smart of them to do this, but like looking at the shoes people are wearing or the clothes they're wearing or how they're holding their vape as sort of like cues of like putting people, oh, they're this type of person, I should play this. Like when you guys are crowd reading, is it that I don't think that way, but I'm curious, like Trevor, like how do you crowd read? Are you just kind of throwing a record out there? Or is there any other cues you're trying to take in?
I gotta admit, that's pretty impressive that A-Track can actually see what people are wearing from the stage.
Right.
Because most of the time there's lasers and CO2 cannons, and I'm just kind of sometimes taking a swing at what I think's going to work. And, then people are going to start jumping. But, like sometimes I can tell if there's like a couple like frat boys up front, then like, I'll play some more like house stuff. But, yeah, that's a interest. I mean, yeah, if I had the vision to the literal 2020 vision to see what people are wearing, that might help, dictate my sets a little bit. But
A daytime pool party may be a little easier to see what people are getting into.
that's very true. Yeah.
Lucas, any crowd reading strategies, tips, or anything you use to sort of like keep it maybe a little more data driven? I don't know. That's kind of, I guess, maybe that's my question.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, not the shoe and apparel reference. I'd need like live real-time chat GPT video that analysis. No, for me it's like there's kind of an interesting blend, right? Like I'd say like my first thought, yeah, you could look at like the club or the club audience holistically and be like, are people moving in here in general? But then there's also like, especially I don't want to like hate on the US, but especially in the US, I feel like you'll have a little less like dancing freely sometimes. It's not always the case, but like compared to some places in Europe where people sometimes just like feel a little bit like they're dancing with a little bit more freedom and a lot less like phones are out and stuff like that marginally. It's not a stark difference. Yeah, you kind of look to like who's like enjoying themselves the most and then kind of like going with them because like yeah, like even when I was like I did a openings kind of or support slot for a band and that was like super interesting for the crowd reading stuff because it was like and they were decent sized theaters so it's harder to see but you in the front it's like there's definitely people waiting for the band in the back, but it's like I'm not playing for them really. I'm not trying to like go overboard or anything, but you have these 100 or so people like dancing in the front and enjoying themselves, and it's like, okay, well, you guys are here for it. I'm gonna play for you. Not that I'm discounting everybody else in that scenario, but yeah, kind of want to match the energy of the people that are like seem to be vibing the most, and then hopefully that will bring people along for the ride that are more wallflowering it. Nothing against wallflowering. I do it all the time. But
and if I could add too, like I feel like sometimes like because there's an element of wanting to play for the crowd, but then also reminding yourself that you're also playing for they're coming to see you as the artist, as Sunflwr, as Veggi, so you want to play like the songs that you fuck with. And so I think finding a good balance of that is very important, just to have a whole encompassing show. Because there could, like you're saying, like there's some people there that are, they don't know who you are, and then there's people up front that have known your music for 5 years and want you to just play your catalog. And finding a balance between that to a degree, which is again very subjective and depending on the city you're in, the type of show, if it's a day show or something late at night, it's all pretty relative. So
yeah, no, I love that idea, Lucas, of like queuing in on like the I guess the early adopters, almost like the people that come right into the club, start dancing. Because I think one thing I've always noticed is like the early crowd, and that's typically when I'm playing, is they're not quite drunk yet. They're not quite confident enough to get out there and shake it. But if once you find those people, you do kind of want to keep their energy going, because their energy will become infectious, and then everybody will, start dancing at one point or another, whether they're liquored up enough or just like they can't contain, the infectious energy. But then also, I've had similar, Trevor, where it's like, I've always had this rule: 2 for them, 1 for you. And in the context of more open format kind of gigs, where it's like, okay, I'm mostly playing to please the crowd here, but I got to keep my sanity by playing some stuff for me. So I think that's what's so interesting. Everybody sort of has their like own techniques and rules here on such a subjective art. Crowd reading, I think, is such an art at the end of the day.
I want to take this opportunity to say sorry to the woman in Mexico City who was requesting Cul-de-sac Club at 3 a.m. I just couldn't do it. But those situations do happen.
Yeah.
But I wanted to add one last thing on this. It's like, at the end of the day, too, it's like, if you're getting paid to go play somewhere, wherever it is, like, also just do your thing. And like, don't, anytime you think about it a little too much, it can screw you sometimes. So sometimes it's best to just be like, hey, I don't know what the crowd's going to be. I'm just going to do my thing that's been working okay in the last couple cities. So, sometimes there's no crowd reading, especially when you're jet lagged.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You just brought up something that you were kind of making the U.S. sort of Europe distinction, or maybe it was the world distinction. But I remember the Blessed Madonna was giving this history lesson, I guess, a little bit on just how kids in the UK sort of like grew up taking the tube, going clubbing from like 16, and so they're sort of, I don't know, inhibitions to sort of just let go and dance is just a little stronger than these very spread out cities in the US where, people from outside the city centers aren't necessarily coming in to sort of learn club culture a little bit, you know what I mean? And so that was her theory, was essentially like Europe and the UK they're just the way they're built. It's almost there's almost no way that you wouldn't see that sort of a distinction when it comes to how you get to a club in America versus the UK. And I don't know if you guys have any thoughts, but that just triggered like my brain a little bit.
I feel like I've
Did
heard
you notice that coming back from Europe, Trevor? Because you just came back from a tour over there, right?
Sorry, what was the question?
You just came back from a tour in Europe, right? Maybe in the last 6 months.
Yeah. I was playing ADE in Amsterdam, and then I was in London, I was in Spain. ADE was really interesting because, again, for one, it was ADE, so like everyone was in town, everyone's partying every night. But like what I did notice too, just I feel like the energy, because that being my first time doing a Europe tour, first time in Europe ever, also the crowd never let up. Like it didn't fluctuate. Like I've played a few shows where the crowd is filing in, and then some people will stay for maybe 11:30 to 1, and then it kind of files out after from 1 to 2. It never let up. Like in Amsterdam, like everyone was going, and I had like a 2-hour set. It was from midnight to 2, and like even at the end of my set, like people were like encore, like let's keep it going. So that was really cool to see, and even too like what Sunflower was saying about the difference between the phones are out and people don't want to dance as much in the US versus in Europe. I didn't see as many phones. I saw a lot of people just being more in the moment and just vibing, for lack of a better word. But like they were just having a lot of fun. So
yeah, it's also just harder these days. I mean, like when I moved to New York, that was like 2011 maybe. I had an iPhone, but I don't think I was taking pictures on my iPhone till like 2017, if my Google Photos are correct. But like, so I feel like when it's just like, it's just something we interface with a lot more these days. So it's like, it's hard for people, you're like trying to find your friends, trying to, I don't know. It was like constant alerts and constant data coming in from around the world, even if you're just at a club even. So yeah, it's hard to find that balance. I think it's kind of coming back. I've had some like nice shows here.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, it's not, I don't know if it's like completely a US thing. It's just maybe like, I don't know, maybe like smaller markets where you haven't played there before. People are more
Mhm.
excited to see you versus like if you've played in Paris a couple times or like New York, for example, if you played a
Yeah.
bunch of times, there's more people just coming out. Maybe they recognize your name, but like they're not they're going out to dance, which is like I
Yeah.
feel like
Some of
when I
the
was in my clubbing days normally was doing not necessarily like, oh my God, like that DJ is going to be there. I'm just like, I got to be in the front
yeah.
staring at that CDJ. Those there there are those types of fans, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, just like eyeballing, seeing what song's next, and yeah. Yeah, that happened to me in Miami last weekend. There were plenty of people point blank just like
Like,
hovering over. I'm like,
when's your
you
Johnson?
better not press any buttons, bro. Like, but
Do you
even
get a
just
lot of that, Trevor? Because like I feel like with a lot of your edits, they probably become so in demand. Are people? Do you notice that at a lot of your gigs where people are just like, "What is this? Is this one of his? Can I grab it?"
yeah, when it's because if I'm playing up on a big stage, then the crowd's a little further away. But when it's one of those more stages where it's a more intimate, like 360 set, for sure. Like I'll see people just kind of like hovering over, which is, I'm totally fine with it. But I have that like thought in my head where, because I'm in my flow state, I'm at work or whatever, and I don't want anyone to like press a button or something. Because I've had some like, you know, I've had some experiences in the past where, some people like that are like on stage get a little too like cocky or whatever. And I'm trying to, like I'm the next DJ that's like coming up, and I'm not like figuratively, but like literally like I'm up next on the lineup for the night. I try to wiggle my way through. Some people get like butthurt because they're like, who are you? They're just like trying to have a good time. And then as I'm starting my DJ set and they're like walking off the stage and they just like scratch the jog wheel, and I'm like, and the whole club just heard that, and I'm like, okay, like whatever, like that was interesting, but things like that. So that's probably what kind of goes in the back of my head. But in terms of just people that are genuinely interested in what I'm about to play or things like that, then I totally have no issue with them just kind of peeking over, being like, "Ooh, what idea is that?"
Yeah, I mean, you made it, so it's not like they're gonna see it and be able to find it, especially if it's not out there. I do.
Yeah.
There's one story that I always think about when I kind of talking about this. When I first moved to LA, I had a friend that used to play at this club that's no longer around called Teddy's, and it was in the Roosevelt Hotel. If you guys had ever been, but it was not an easy door. Like we only got in really because my friend DJ'd there. It was a definitely like celebrity hangout. This is like probably around 2014, 2015, and there was one guy there who another DJ, not my friend, but they would all use Serato just because that was the open format thing back in the day, and he had essentially like jailbroke Serato in a way, and I may have dated myself saying that. But anyways, he figured out how to essentially blank out the entire song area so you could never know what he was even playing. I guess the thought being, maybe it's out there and I'm not going to let you even know what it's called because these are my weapons and they're not yours. But I always think of that because I was like, wow, this guy is being so precious with his records. Like it's really about the skill. It's not about the music always, it's the crowd reading and the technical skill.
Hmm.
I don't know.
He's playing 5D chess up there.
I guess
Okay.
so. Let's get into a little sort of like background on you guys because, Lucas, you've mentioned New York a few times. You moved there in 2011, an era where like I was so obsessed with New York and the Bloghouse stuff going on. What drew you to New York? Tell me about the scene. Like, how were you kind of interacting with the scene then? And then what sort of led you out to LA?
Yeah. I guess I do like subconsciously talk up the New York thing because I live in LA and I like want people to know that I like New York better or something. But um, no, I went to school out there. I went to NYU. I did like their music tech program. So yeah, it just seemed like a cool thing to do. And I was like, oh, I can like actually do a music degree because I was playing like jazz stuff in high school and then like it's like considering like, do I do jazz in college? And then like it just didn't seem like right. And I had already kind of got into the Ableton stuff with it started with just like recording my band in high school. And so yeah, no, I got to New York and then just like met a bunch of cool people in my program that were all doing like crazy stuff and chip tune DJs and like, right in the side chaining and the Game Boy DAW or whatever it is. And people doing noise music and then people who were doing like dance music. So it was like a pretty cool exposure for me into like live dance music. I don't think I'd ever really seen stuff outside of like going to Outside Lands or something when I was like at the end of high school. Yeah, so I just started going out to the clubs all the time. Um, and just like going at 9 p.m. And that was kind of the most awesome time to go. Just like 10-minute build up vibey tracks and stuff. And then like a piano stab 5 minutes in. Yeah, it was cool. And then, yeah, then I kind of got into DJing there a little bit. Not really. I was more like producing stuff and then, um, yeah, I did some like after hours stuff. And then I'm from San Francisco, so I wanted to move back to California, but not, the Bay Area. So yeah, I came here, met my wife, stuck here forever. No, I don't know, but
What I
yeah,
tell
I
my
don't know.
friends.
Did I answer your question? I'm not sure.
No, I no, it definitely answered the question. I think, well, I guess maybe talk about some of your influences, like what sort of drew you to Lo-Fi House? Was it those years in New York and sort of this jazz background, or like sort of the beginning of Sunflower? Sort of what were those influences you were pulling on?
Yeah, I mean, I came from like the jazz background, but I also like was really into like the down tempo electronic and sort of like trip hop, I guess, scene stuff, and like uh, I was really into like the indie electronic stuff as well, and you know, Bonobo and yeah, I mean, my favorite band of all time is the Gorillaz, so there's that, and yeah, I hadn't really like gotten to the house music thing, but all the stuff I was making was like kind of like almost like at hip hop tempo. And then me and my buddy had this like YouTube channel. It's called Paperwave, like pay per view, but you can still find it. But
I'm gonna look it up right now.
yeah, yeah. I would like make these like kind of like beats that were sort of like in that hip hop space, but they kind of like had this like vibe thing. And then I literally just started putting four on the floor a little bit to some of this stuff and speeding it up. And I kind of liked it, but it was all sort of like very sample based and stuff. And like it was very sample based with like like giving it harmonic structure with like whatever chords I could find, and the jazz background probably keeps me on all the add 9, 13, and sus chord stuff that like you'll hear a little in my music. So it was kind of a blend of that, like speeding that stuff up. Um, and then kind of when I got back, I took a little hiatus, and then kind of 2018, 2019 when I was starting Sunflower, it was like Ross from Friends and Seinfeld and Baltra and Computer Data were all kind of like spearheading the lo-fi house movement. I just thought it was really cool. I was like, I like listening to house music that like makes me feel like sad and melancholy, but also like I don't know, also happy. It had a lot of feeling to it. And it was different than sort of the more like minimal house stuff I was listening to in the 2010s and the French house stuff, which I really loved. But yeah, I guess that kind of drove me, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then it kind of like informed that sound a little bit, um, and kind of like got to be part of a little bit of a part of that second wave of the lo-fi house stuff before it kind of moved on. But Yeah.
I love that because I think I hear a little bit of like, Trevor, we've talked already about sort of your beginnings, and I guess this sort of early energy with both of you guys was sort of these like kind of hip hop influences, right? Because growing up in Long Beach, kind of got into. I mean, you played some instruments as well.
Yep.
And kind of talk about some of those early influences for Veggie and what drew you maybe eventually to house, because I'm interested to see if there's any parallels there.
Totally. I mean, it's. I didn't know that you were Sunflower, that you were heavily involved in jazz in college, because I too was also, well, not in college, but from fourth grade through high school, I was in jazz band, played saxophone, and then I got into drumline and total band geek, for my high school years. And it was actually then when I started like, like our high school, we had like a new program where we all got like iPads, and it was like all of our textbooks were going on iPads. And so, naturally I had access to GarageBand. And so I started scoring like my friends' short films on the iPad, just doing like trying to learn, like I learned a little bit of music theory through GarageBand. And it was really like those formative years that wanted to push me to do more music full time in some capacity. And so ended up transferring in my sophomore year of college to university in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee State University, which is just right outside of Nashville. Went to study music business there and audio production, and in that whole time I was like, really into, starting to get into music production, and like I had Logic at that time, got my first laptop, and this was like 2016, 2017. So Tropical House was a really big thing, and I was just getting my feet wet with EDM in general. And so I was like, big room house and Tropical House were like my shtick. And then my last 2 years of college, that really flipped into hip hop very quickly. And I was making hip hop beats, and it was, I don't know, Brockhampton was big at the time, so I was like a really big Brockhampton fan, and then so many other influences, and like, it was fun, because then also I learned how to DJ in college, and I was playing a couple frat parties, and I remember like one of, just like those certain moments where you're like, oh shit, like I'm never gonna forget this. And I remember the moment I played DNA by Kendrick Lamar at a frat party, and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, I was like my first real experience with like getting crowd reception as a DJ. And I was like, this is so fun. Like, I want to keep doing this. So my inspirations, evolved throughout the years, and graduating college in 2019, came back to LA and was just working marketing jobs, but still doing music very much so. And I was watching like Kenny Beats' live streams, and trying to do his beat competitions and things like that. I like participated in a couple of them. Like I would literally make a beat, like a hip hop beat, on my 1 hour lunch break while watching his stream and submit it, and then try to see if I'd like by 2 or 3 p.m. see if he would like, I don't know, mention me or anything. But what really like led Veggie into become its like, full-time thing, and like the sound that I really associate it with now is, one of my friends, when I worked at In-N-Out too for a time. One of my coworkers showed me Kaytranada, and Kaytranada was like, it was so cool. I remember he showed me, what's the one song he has with Anderson .Paak? Glowed Up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, off of 99.9%. And yeah, that song, I was like, this is so cool. And then when Kaytranada released Bubba, that was like, which is kind of a hot take. That's like kind of, I know everyone's like 99.9% is like the best Kaytra album, but low key, I felt so attached, and I like identify heavily with Bubba and just the way that it sounds, and like, and that's what really influenced that like funk house, like kind of jazzy, very organic sounding sound that turned Veggie into what it is. So in short, it was like I can see the blend, the inspiration from the early days of EDM that I was into, and the formative years of hip hop throughout college kind of blend together into what I make now. And to this day, I still say, like, I think my three big artists that inspire me are Kaytranada, SG Lewis, and like Channel Trace. So,
Yep.
yeah.
No, those are great. And I think it's really interesting. Like, I'm such a French house nut, and so I'm like so down that history, and like in so many ways, like those guys, like if you talk like DJ Medi and even the Daft Punk guys a
Yeah.
bit, they were so influenced by hip hop. And back in those days, like, you know, hip hop and house were kind of being made the same way, you know, on the same machines. And, you know, those guys were kind of coming from that world and then, you know, kind of doing what you said, Lucas, where it's like, I just put a 4 to the floor beat on this thing I had. And all of a sudden I was like, holy crap, that is fresh. So I do think like it, and maybe that's just our era. I don't know. I guess it is sort of the generation before us too. But, you know, I was such a big hip hop head and R&B and such great like tunes in the, you know, 2000s, aughts, early 2010s. It's hard not to sort of see that through line with so many like electronic producers these days. Well, great origin story, guys. I have a little game for us. We call this or that, and we're going to kind of tweak it a little bit. So I'm going to ask you some questions. But instead of sort of an open or instead of sort of like giving you an artist versus an artist, we're going to see if this is more of a veggie thing or a sunflower and see if you guys agree. So I've got a couple of this or that questions, and I want to I'll kind of alternate on who answers first, but I want to see where there's agreement here. So we'll kick that off. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Like one of those things where you like walk to the side of the answer.
Should I? I can get. Let me see if my assistant.
Can we stand up?
Thinking of the Instagram, they're like, "Who's more like that?" And then they walk down.
It's kind of like that. We'll do it.
Right.
We'll do some movie magic in post. You know.
Okay.
All right. So this first question, we'll start with Trevor, then we'll have Lucas answer. Which of you two, Veggie or Sunflower, is more likely to show up to sound check late?
Ooh,
Trevor, what do you say?
damn. Started it off rough. Shit. I hate to throw Sunflower under the bus, but I feel like Sunflower maybe would go to sound check a little later than me.
What do you say, Lucas? Do you agree
just
with that?
like, just like, not true in the slightest. Completely false. No, I'm a very punctual person. I would say I would say Trevor only because I just feel like I'm so damn good at showing up at soundcheck at the right time that I have since had to like start coming 15 minutes late because I just get there on time and they're never ready.
Interesting. I actually love that. So it's actually the sound team. They're showing up late to sound check.
Unless
I'm
I'm
realizing
with like a crew of other DJs, then sometimes there's we'll see.
I love it. I am now realizing some of these sort of pit you guys against each other in ways that.
No, that's good. That's good.
Let's keep it going.
Oh, good. Got to ruffle our feathers a little bit.
Okay, so we'll start now with Lucas here. Who's more likely, Veggie or Sunflower, to spend a week on a snare sound and just throw it out?
I already know my answer.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like he's pretty decisive too, though. But I'll go with you, Trevor. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. I mean, I take it as a compliment, honestly, because it is like sometimes you want to really dial in your sound, and even if it's like you work on it for a whole week just to throw it out, that was worth it, you know. But to be honest, I feel like sometimes I'll pick a sound and kind of stick with it, Whereas I don't know, for some reason I feel like Sunflower, you're a little more meticulous with the sounds that you'll use for each, whether for percussion or things like that. I feel like I have a certain group of sounds that I'll kind of stick with, and you do too. But I don't know. So I don't. There's something that feels a little more granular with your process, which is I could take a page out of that book, to be honest.
I like that.
Would you guys consider yourself endless tinkerers? Trevor, what do you say?
I'm like an endless tinkerer at the last 10% or the last like nine. What is it like? What do you say? Like the song's 90% done, the last 10%.
Last 10%.
Then my left brain just turns on like a motherfucker, and then I'm like, oh fuck, dude! Like I gotta listen to this song on my iPhone, on my AirPods, in my car, like 10 times each. Like, yeah,
check it everywhere.
Sometimes I'll mix a song with the mastering chain on, and then just like if it sounds good in my AirPod Maxes, then that'll be good, to be honest, because I'm like, this is where people are gonna hear it mostly, and on their phones and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm just rambling.
Got it. I like it. This one we'll lighten it up a little bit and just see who's the better cook. Trevor, tell me who's the better cook, you or Sunflower?
Better cook? I don't even know. I don't know what Sunflower's cooking game is like, so I don't know if I could speak on that.
So he's going veggie, it sounds like.
We only go out and get sandwiches, you and I, Sunflower.
Yeah.
So we can't really speak on our cooking game.
Who's always saying?
I can't call you late and a bad cook. So.
Dude, definitely Trevor. I'd love to be like more energized by cooking, but I'm just not. I find it so. I just can't find the energy for it usually.
Yeah. It's just easier to get something.
I think it's so cool, and I love when people are really thoughtful about it and enjoy it. But I've never found that. I can follow instructions pretty well though.
So so you guys are both raising your hand for ultimate sandwich getters.
Yeah,
you guys have your sandwich spots down. I love it.
I'd say we're big Giada fans.
Big Giada fans.
We love a good spicy pea from Giada.
Shout out Giada. Also shout out their Philly cheese. I guess it's not really a Philly cheesesteak. It is a cheesesteak. I don't know if you guys have had it, but it is chef's kiss.
I gotta try it.
I have like 5 that I rotate through, and then I've become like way too routine with my options there. So I gotta branch out.
We'll go get them before the show. They're fantastic.
Nice.
My treat. I got a couple more here. I just want to pick one of these. Oh yeah, let's see. We'll start with Lucas here. Who is more likely to go until sunrise after a set?
Me for sure.
Yeah.
I'm the Trevor's. I feel like Trevor's a little bit more professional than me. Not too
To
much.
go till sunrise after a set, huh?
Just the amount of time.
At 11 p.m., my guy.
The amount of times I've been getting in bed and being like, "Oh my god, I have to go to the airport in 2 hours."
Yeah, it's true.
I don't need to. It just happens.
Yeah,
Time just slips away sometimes when you're having fun.
You got to do what you got to do.
Green room conversations going way too long.
Yeah.
You know what? Taking the dub there?
Say again?
Are you taking the dub there, Trevor? Or I'm sorry, is Sunflower taking the dub? Would you say the same for being out till sunrise, or are you also in the conversation for that?
I feel like I don't know. I might have to throw my hat in the ring there a little bit, just to say that I'll be up till sunrise. But I mean, it's kind of pushing it. I feel like by the time I hit 4:00, I'm done. So.
This is an interesting qualifier to this though, because are we talking like show day, or are we talking about like regular life? Because Trevor's a night owl and I'm like in bed at 9 normally. But I'm talking about the gear switch into show day or when you're
Show
touring.
mode, yeah.
Then I'm just like, whatever.
I framed it as a show mode kind of thing, but
Yeah.
I love the ring. I love the added detail because I am very much that. I'm like in bed by 9 or 10, and then but if I have like if I'm having a good party or I'm out, I might be out late.
Then I would agree. I think Sunflower is more non-show night. He's in bed before me, but on a show night, I'm in bed before him. I'll say that.
Like it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens, I guess, right?
Yeah. We'll see. See if we live up to that.
I'm gonna go with one last one here. Who's Veggie or Sunflower? Who I can't remember who started the last one. I think it was you, Lucas. So we'll go with Trevor here. Veggie or Sunflower? Who's more likely to request more volume on the booth monitor?
That's such a specific question. Who's more likely to request more volume on the booth monitor?
Or who's more likely to just crank the booth?
Just crank the booth. I feel like we're both pretty respectable with that booth monitor. We're both pretty
Watching out for the
respectable.
hearing.
I mean, I'll crank it if I need to. I'll put my earbuds in and then just crank it to 11. But yeah, I'll take it. I'll say me.
Take it. Lucas?
What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like you can hear better than I can. Like I honestly like I've just lost enough hearing that sometimes I'm just like I have to.
I'm only cranking it unless I'm playing at Webster Hall, and then they got those fucking wall of sound booth monitors on each side. Then I'm like, I need like 20%, and I'm good. Like,
yeah. Sometimes those bigger places, it just sounds like a washing machine up there, and then you're like, I guess where's my headphones all set?
Yeah.
Are you wearing earplugs, Lucas?
I just started wearing earplugs this year. It's a big change and a very needed change for me. So
I actually think we talked about this at Trevor's party. I think we were talking. I was like asking you this, and you're like, "Nah, I don't fool around with those." I was like, "Come on, man! You only got one pair of ears for 10."
I know. I've been so bad, but I didn't really like realize I was going to be like playing 50 shows in 2024, and then it all kind of snuck up on me, and then I was like, "Oh no." Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm trying to be better about bringing those things along. I just had bad ones, and they were just like cutting the important frequencies where I like would beat match to or know where I am and stuff. So I got better ones. So we'll try those out.
I've always found that if you put your earplugs in and the booth isn't loud enough, or at least maybe this is just a me thing, I always find that I'm like struggling to beat match a little bit because I'm like, am I hearing this correctly? And then I sort of like will feel it slipping, and then I panic and then rip both of them out, and I'm like, I can't wear these right now. This is too crucial.
Yeah.
So that's me. Guys, we've made it to the end, and it is tradition here to have the guest of the previous episode ask you guys a question. So our last guest was Mike B, and he is posing this question to you guys. So we'll I'm really interested to hear this because, again, this is kind of specific, but everybody has a different preference. So I think this is really cool. So Mike B asks, what is your default FX setting on a Pioneer mixer? Trevor, tell me what that looks like for you.
For me, it's echo, and not delay, but echo. And I'm leaving that shit on like a half note, usually. So half note, quarter note if I'm trying to bring up some energy, but it's usually on some echo for sure.
And echo, and not spiral. Echo specifically.
Right, not spiral. We don't fuck with spiral. This is an echo household.
I am very much in line with that. That's me. What about you, Lucas? What is your default FX setting?
Shimmer.
Shimmer.
Only no, I'm kidding. I only play on V10s. Have you seen my right? No. Well, when I first started, I was kind of like would stay in the reverb thing, and I only would use it, during like the end of a build up or something. And then Trevor actually taught me because we have a song together, and there's this part that you can kind of do some FX if you want. And I was doing reverb, he was doing echo on a quarter note. That sounded really good. So, and then I was like watching a Black Coffee set where he's doing some really cool technical echo stuff that I can't really do. But yeah, I keep it on echo, and because it's like my fun. Like if I'm gonna do anything, I like to do like I'll do the little enable of like the echo 1/4 on like some little hit. So it's just like like that every once in a while, and then yeah, I go back to reverb. Oops.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, I shouldn't. I was about to just say this and not have any remorse, but he did add the caveat. Mike B, that is. This isn't me saying it. He did say if your default effects is reverb, you're a fucking bitch.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's so funny.
At least you've got your default is echo as well. I don't know what it is. I think it's just like all you need sometimes. Like I've played on mixers where even that's broken, and the whole effect setting is just like fucked, and just I don't know. I feel like echo is just like energy building and also getting out of stuff. Like if you're in a pickle where it's like, oh, the other track's almost done. This is more open format stuff, I guess. But you can get out of it really quick and keep it kind of, cover up your tracks a little bit if you
you can
realize it came to an
your
end.
transition with some echo. Like
Yeah.
I think
There's so many.
It's not just a DJing thing too. Reverb is just like it's just like a safety escape hatch, you know? And it sounds like I use it on my original tracks all the time because they're not like club tracks, so sometimes I like need an extra kind of washy feeling to the build. Like I don't have risers in these tracks and like effects like upsweeps and stuff like this, so I'm like kind of simulating that versus with reverb. But I'm a producer who DJs out of necessity still, so
I like that answer. Well, the A9, I believe, has, I can't remember what that one is, but you can add risers now with, it's like all the way on the other side of the dial from like echo and stuff. I can't remember what it's called, but it is basically your riser. If you need to add one, you can set the length and off you go.
I like
that
RMX stuff too. Whenever there's an RMX, I have so much fun during sound check, and then I at one point during the set I use it, and it's awesome.
It's funny. I have something to add to that because I played Jake Gatewood's new bar, his new club Boogies in Dallas earlier this year or last year, and he had an RMX there. That was my first experience using that. And I was ripping that thing on every transition, every buildup I got. I was like on the quarter note, snare build, just and like everyone fucking loved it. Like I was like, am I overdoing? Like in my head, as it was a 4-hour set, and I'm like, am I overdoing this? And I'm like, no, like because like everyone was just fucking wailing. Like it was fun. So
I've had minimal experience with those, but they are like just to even play the clap like offbeat a little bit. It's just ripping. Well, great guys. We have one last request. Like I said, it's customary that the previous guest asks the next guest question. So now you guys are the previous guests. Please hit me with a question, and I'm going to give you guys both. So I'm going to have like a 2-question ask for the next guest. Okay. So Lucas, maybe you hit me with a question here you want to ask our next guest.
I assume there'll be a DJ, right? Or that
your assumption could be valid. We're the plan is to talk to a lot of different folks, but you can have it be a DJ question.
Well, this one can be translated, I guess, to a different forum if they're not playing a show. But what's the go-to on show day on the performance clothing? Do we go for comfort or do we go for style? Because I can't find a good balance. I got to go one way or the other, it seems.
You're
a good
all in
question.
on one or the other.
Yeah.
Either 100% comfortable or 100% stylish. No in between.
Yeah.
I like that. What about you,
Oh,
Trevor? What were we asking?
I've got a good follow up too for the show like prep. How many drinks before you get on stage, or any drinks at all? How about that? Something like
I
that.
like it.
Like how many? It could be a beer, it could be a shot, something like that. Like what is the threshold of
Mhm.
feeling comfortable before getting on stage?
We're talking about rituals. We're talking about what's your, how comfortable are you? Or
Yeah.
how after it are you getting? I like it.
Hmm.
Guys, it was incredible to talk with you both. Really excited we got to do this. This is our third episode. So thanks for sticking in and doing the thing. This has been On Air with Veggie and Sunflower. Thanks, guys. We will chat soon. Later.
Always, Jake. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Pleasure. Appreciate it. Peace.